Hello, everybody, on this Spotlight Sunday. Now, today I am joined all the way from Tallahassee, Florida. I'll get my teeth in today. By the lovely Donna Tornillo, and she is known as the Take Charge Coach. So, welcome, Donna. Apologies for the fact that I can't seem to speak today.
No worries. Thank you so much, Kezia. I am just so honored to be here today. Thank you.
Well, I'm honoured to have you. Now, obviously, I met Donna in San Diego when we were filming Awakening Giants. And part of the process of Awakening Giants was that we were on stage telling our story. And I'd spent most of the week with you doing a variety of different things, from up in the trees for the ropes through to spending 48 hours with wolves, which in itself was an amazing experience. But the thing that struck me when you started talking was you made a comment, and I'm sure everybody else would be amazed by this. You made a comment on your age. Now, we all know that women, it's not polite to ask a woman her age, but you told everybody in the audience that you were 71. And I was just knocked off my seat because I'd spent this time with you and I had naturally assumed that you weren't any older than 60 at all. And so before we begin or do anything, I'm interested if you can let me know, what is your secret to looking so young and beautiful?
I think it's attitude. I really believe that. It's also activity. And I'm blessed with good health. I mean, that has a lot to do with it. I don't really, my mother really suffered from a lot of issues that I did not inherit.
Mm.
And so I really believe that has a lot to do with it. And staying in motion, staying in action, keeping the body moving, because I love dancing. I teach Zumba. I scuba dive. I climb telephone poles because
We do indeed.
and walk tight ropes.
Oh God, that
So
was
it has a lot to do with what you do and how you feel about life and how you feel about everything about what you are. You have to care about yourself, and it starts with inside first.
And I know that on Facebook you posted recently an amazing dance, a very quite sexy dance of you on stage with a gentleman. And I know we were talking earlier about how dancing can sometimes be like running a business. And I'm just interested if you can expand on that a little bit further.
Yes. I've been ballroom dancing now for 12 years. And one of the things and it did teach me a lot of lessons, not just with regard to business, but with regard to life. Because ballroom dancing involves dancing with a partner. And sometimes you are in frame and you have to move together. You have to, you know, um, even if I'm walking backwards, dancing backwards, I am still in frame and in hold. And whatever I'm doing involves working with another person. That applies to whether you're working on a joint venture or you're working with a client. And especially with a client in the coaching that I do, and any person that's a coach, you have to be in alignment with the person that you're working with. They have to know that you have their back, that you care about them, and you are leading them to find their own answers. It's not about my giving my answer. It's not about my doing whatever. The hardest thing for me as a woman in ballroom dancing was giving up the power of wanting to lead.
Oh, I can understand.
My first teacher would take his hand and he'd shake it and he goes, "This is mine. It's not yours right now. It's mine." And it took me a long time to understand that there is a time to
Mm.
work together and release and give up that control, because that's when the outcome will be even better. But then there are those times where you do have to dance alone. You
Yeah.
do have to follow the choreography, that plan, if you will, of whatever it is that you're working on, and you follow it in sequence so that the outcome turns out to be the best it possibly can be. So yes, it really does apply. It applies to business, it applies to life, and it is a metaphor for living.
Because most of the women that, and I think I'm right in saying this, most of the women that you tend to coach tend to be women over 50, those women that are going through a transition. And let's be honest, you know, as we come into our 50s, lots of transitions are going on, whether it's menopause or empty nesting, or for some people, unfortunately, divorce. All of these different transitions are happening. And one of the things that I'm really interested in is that you have quite a unique way in that you coach. I know you've been called the clarity creator because you not only coach, but you also bring in the amazing skills of tarot and astrology. Can you expand on that a little bit further?
I'd be happy to, because I as if you remember from when I spoke in San Diego, I said that, you know, I'd loved astrology since my hippie days. And I think that's when I turned sideways and said, my hair's down to here and bell bottoms and fringe and a baby on my hip, you know? So yes, I loved astrology. And it wasn't until after I retired from teaching in 2011 that I knew that life wasn't over. It was a transition. And my husband died several years previous. My son lived in Miami, and even though we live in the same state, Miami's 500 miles away. So, you know, like, okay, now what? And that's what I call it, the now what time. What do I do with this? In my case, it was being single, being retired, not, you know, what do I do with my time, my space? And the only thing that you can really do to create some clarity and some direction is to try things out. So I tried different places to volunteer. I tried all sorts of, you know, different things to try and find that what would fulfill my purpose. Because I thought my purpose is teaching, and now that I've retired from teaching, it's over. What I didn't understand is that later on, what I did was repurpose my purpose. I just do it in a whole different way. So a friend of mine had been sending me emails. She lives in North Carolina, in Charlotte. And I had been following her, and she had her business. Her name's Gina Spriggs. She'll love that I'm giving her a little promo here. But it just called to me that day. I answered one of her calls to sign up for something. And I actually ended up working with her for a year and a half. And we're still friends. But what I learned was I was introduced to tarot through her, and it was like, bam, works together. That's why I use the tarot readings within the 12 houses of the zodiac. And that applies to everything in life. Each house identifies something about you and your life, which is how the world sees you, how your money, your relationships, your social interactions. So many different facets of life are identified within the 12 houses of the zodiac. So that tarot reading then becomes a basis. It's almost like the baseline for where we go from there. And then it's also used no more than once a month, because that's enough in doing that level of tarot reading. Because I meet with my clients 2 to 3 times a month, but only once a month do we do it as an assessment. Let's see where we're going. Let's see where it's improved. The tarot cards, and once we do a meditation before we start, and that meditation is what sets the energy of the reading. It sets that place and that peaceful time so that you can fully connect. Everyone is connected to source to know that we're going to get the most and best answer that we can get. And with that, it then becomes a tool. Just one of the tools that I use with regard to coaching. So yes, it actually acts as a baseline, as an assessment, and as an ongoing way of, because I'm still a 5th grade teacher in many, you know, so my readings done with auditory, visual, and tactile. So those cards provide not just the visual, but if you're working directly with me, you can actually see and feel that card. And at the end of the reading, I always ask which card means the most to you in terms of what this reading message was. And inevitably, it's always called to a certain card, and I ask people to then take a photo of that card and take it with them so that they will always have that as their reminder through the month, especially if they're a coaching client. Through the month, And then it offers a start off point each time we meet about how did that card relate to what they were working on, how was their life related to that card. It's just it's like a writing prompt. It's a prompt to get us focused on what direction we have to go in.
And having had one of your readings, I think I fed back to you, the meditation was amazing. I mean, you have the most soothing, relaxing voice when you're in a meditative state, and it was just the most beautiful imagery that you used. It was a fantastic, relaxing meditation, which was amazing. And I know, obviously, using the tarot card and the astrology, for those of the people that might not quite understand, what is the difference?
Oh, that's a good question. That's really a good question. And they're actually related, because cards within tarot identify with signs, whether with astrology signs, zodiac signs, or even planets. So it's interrelated in that sense. Where astrology is based on your birth, where you were at birth, the blueprint, if you will, of you at the time of your birth. And it's based on your birthday, birth time, and the location of where you are. Because, you know, we know that in Australia, the sky looks totally different than it does if we're in Iceland, you know, so it all, or in England, or in Florida, you know, it doesn't matter, or in Spain. So it all depends on your location, how the sky looks, and that's how a blueprint is created. The same thing happens with tarot. The energy is set at that moment. And then a tarot reading is the energy of the moment. The astrology chart is the energy at birth. For both, the overriding theme is that we all have free will. And this is the part that's important. This is a guide, because sometimes even when someone's giving an astrology reading to you, you don't like what you're hearing. You know, this planet and this planet will be conjunct in a certain house, which will create the opportunity, and I call them opportunities, to look at life differently. Now, we then have a choice of falling into the morass of negativity and letting the circumstances, the outside circumstances, take over us, or we have the choice to stay in that place of alignment, that it all will work out because we're not going and delving into the drama. So it's a guide. Yeah. All of it is a guide. Nothing is cast in stone. But in the one, it's cards that are laid out for that moment. And in the other, it's based on the blueprint that you are born with.
Yeah. And I like that. Nothing is cast in stone, because I think a lot of women that get to that age, you know, I think anywhere from kind of mid-40s upwards, we kind of feel that this is it, that, you know, we've had the best of our days potentially, we're stuck in a routine, we're doing the same thing. But actually, nothing is set in stone. In a heartbeat, things can change. In a heartbeat, you know, opportunities can present themselves, or experiences that we didn't necessarily want, but we've got and we have to deal with. I would imagine, based on the fact that you deal with women that are in transition, that every day is different, that everybody's different, and the excitement of coming into that age with opportunities that might be just around the corner. Does it take a while for people to remove that blindfold and actually see that just because we're coming to a quote unquote certain age, that life doesn't have to stop?
Yes. And I have to just share this with you, because one of the most interesting things that I've learned is that women that have had a very successful career, whether it's been in their own business, they've been in banking, they've, you know, been in corporate life, whatever it happens to be, they have managed their life so well and made decisions and been in charge and had this tremendous confidence. And then when that goes away, for whatever reason, whether it's retirement, whether, their partner has moved and they've chosen to go with them, whatever it happens to be, whether it's death of a spouse, whatever, doesn't matter. When they are faced with that level of change, they're no longer confident. And it's because the fear of change. That's why we have a grieving process. And I was reading some more about this. Grieving is not just about loss of a person through death or a pet or whatever. It also relates to retirement. It relates to changing jobs. It relates to those moments of transition, because we physically have to have the opportunity to say goodbye to the old to allow the new to come in. And that is a scary part of life. I mean, because it's an unknown for us. Moving from known to unknown is scary. And once we embrace it, the whole point is embracing that change and taking that fear and wrapping your hands around it and saying, so, fear, you have shown up in my life. Yeah. Okay, so why are you here? Because I'm worried about money, because my job has changed and I'm retiring, so I won't have. So am I not going to have food? No, you are going to have food. I'm not going to have a place to live? Yes, you're going to have a place to live. So my friends are going to go away? No, they're not going to go away. If you actually treat fear as a temporary entity and have a discussion with it, it eventually dissolves. It's like anything. When it stays in the dark, that's what makes us fearful. Whatever it is we're concerned about, if it stays inside in the dark, it gets bigger and bigger. If we allow it into the light, it is so diminished because it has no life in the light. It can't.
And actually, that's so true. At the end of the day, having fear and letting our lives become consumed by fear really puts us into the darkness. Is near on impossible to go into the light. But obviously, the other thing that happens around that age is this change where we've spent probably the first half of our life living the life that society expects us to live. So we probably would have got married, we probably would have had children, we probably would have worked the 9 to 5 and worked our way up. We would have gone from the small house to the bigger house to the bigger house. And then all of a sudden we reach a point in our lives where we go, do you know what? This can't be it. There's got to be more to life than this. And the second half of our life tends to be finding that purpose and finding that clarity on what we've been put here to do. How many women do you see that come up against that? And what is the way that you work with them to be able to overcome that?
That's predominantly what I work with. Again, is creating that place of confidence to move into that next chapter. Because when we think about it, our life is within flowing together. There's still a flow together in and out. It doesn't just end and something else starts. It's different segments in our life. And it really is. And as women, especially if we have been raising children and have a job and we're doing all these other things, and most of the time it's for somebody else, not ourselves, it is that moment of when you can repurpose your purpose as what I did, or you continue doing what you're doing but in a different way, which is the same thing. You have to just reach that point of allowing. That's the hardest thing to do, is to allow it, because number one, we've been giving ourselves away to everybody else most of our lives. We haven't really been saying, I mean, as a teacher and a mother and a wife, I mean, that's where my whole life went. And I didn't really understand that I was allowed, I love that word, allow, to let something else in that did not involve taking care of someone else, because of course everybody else had to come first, but they don't. And that was the biggest lesson for me. And of course, my story involves that my whole life changed in the blink of an eye and everything went away. And I had to learn to stand on my own 2 feet and had to learn to move into a different place of power and strength. And it was hard. And I think with learning the lessons that I have with having to do that, and, as you know, and I shared it on stage, that my husband went to prison. He was convicted of a white collar crimes, which involves executive type, not stealing, or that it wasn't that. But anyway, there he was. And everything I knew about my life disappeared. And so I had to start all over. I lost people in my life that I cared about. And obviously that was supposed to happen. Everything changed. And that was a big lesson, because now, as hard as that was to go through, I realized what a blessing it was. And that's the biggest outcome of any change, is that it always leads us to something better. I used to say to my friends, and I made so many new friends with all of this happening, that I say, okay, I see light at the end of the tunnel. It's getting better now. It's going to get better. And then boom, I said, well, not today, but maybe tomorrow. Finally, it just opened up. I could see it. I could see that it was supposed to move forward and be something better. But that comes with trust. And trust can be hard at times when you're living in what you think is the reality of lack, of diminished lifestyle, or love, or whatever it happens to be. It becomes difficult to trust that it really is going to get better. And that is the big word of all, because then what came after trust for me was the knowing, the absolute heartfelt knowing that this is where I'm supposed to be. This is all supposed to happen. And it has made me a stronger person, and one that can take charge of whatever future has to be.
And like you say, your story is amazing, and it blew me away on the stage listening to you talk. I wasn't expecting the information that you gave, and I think there are so many women and men. It's not just a women thing out there.
No.
That life gives them those hard knocks, and I suppose we really do have a choice whether or not we use those stories to help and empower other people, or whether we keep them away, tucked in the darkness, never to be told, never to be seen, never to be shared, because we allow those feelings like guilt and shame and embarrassment to take over our lives and actually become the forefront of our lives. But it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way at all. And I think more and more women are realizing that actually that act of being vulnerable, the act of sharing that vulnerability and that authentic you and what you've gone through is actually really beneficial, not only to yourself but others.
I think the biggest lesson that I learned is that I wasn't a victim, because I was a victim for a while. That's how I felt. Oh my God, why me? Oh, all the world is out to get me. Why, I can't get a break. I went through, I had the whole litany down. I was really good at it, of being the victim. And I think once we get out of that victim, and I didn't even realize, even this year, I was clearing away some victim type behaviors that I didn't even realize were that, until it became uncomfortable that I analyzed it. I went, oh, dang, that's another one. I didn't even know it was there. So once we move out of victimhood into being victorious, victim to victor, once we know we have that power, we can do anything, because we are much more powerful than we know we are, or that we are aware that we are. But it's getting out of victimhood. And that's tough, because especially if you're raised with that, it's what you know. We come into adulthood with what we know. And until we learn a new behavior or a new way of seeing things, we're left with that. Yeah. And it's residual until we can wash it away. And that takes time.
It does. And for many people, victimhood's quite a comfortable place to be, because actually,
absolutely,
you have people rallying around you, you feel important, it does feel quite a comfortable place to be. And actually, if that becomes comfortable, it's hard to step out of that.
Well, if you're a victim, you don't have to be in charge. It's everybody else's fault. Something
Yeah.
goes wrong. It's not me. Has to be somebody else. And, life doesn't work that way. I always tell the story of my mother, because my mother, that's what I was raised with. That's how she viewed life, as a victim. And one of the times I finally learned, later in life, she was in her 70s at that point. I said, okay, she'd ask me what to do about something. I said, Mom, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You have to make your own decision. I said, because if it's not right, you don't like what I tell you, then it's all my fault. And she goes, yes. she even admitted, yes.
But for her,
So,
it's more comfortable.
yes, exactly. Exactly. It was. It really, really was. And so it's difficult. I'm not saying that's easy. It's all a process, because it's peeling away the layers of the onion. And some of those we can't see 5 layers down if we haven't gone through all the rest of the layers first. But it takes a commitment to empowering yourself. As long as you want to stay in the comfort zone of victimhood or whatever it happens to be, the only way you're going to move is if your comfort zone becomes more uncomfortable than taking a leap and taking a risk. That's the only way. And that's when I see the people that I work with, because they're stuck. And that's what being stuck is. You're in a comfort zone, you know that you are, but it's not comfortable anymore. You know there's something more, but how do you get out of that? And that's where, with creating, and I guess we've taken a circuitous route to get to this, Kezia, but you had asked me what tools I use. And one of those that I begin with, and I shared this in my talk, it's called creating positive affirmations for yourself. No one can tell you what to tell yourself. But I start with, writing it down, because I'm really big on writing, because there's tremendous energy in putting something on paper. But taking a sheet of paper, dividing it in half long ways, and just take 3 messages, negative messages, that you tell yourself. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. That could be on one side of the paper. Maybe the next one is, I'm too old to start over. Maybe the next one is, I'm too fat. Whatever it happens to be. On the other half of the paper, then you put it into a positive affirmation. I'm not good enough becomes I am enough. I'm too old to start over means this is a wonderful time to start something new. And I'm too fat becomes I'm at the perfect weight that I love. Once we put it into a positive space, then I call it the zipping up. And the zipping up means that you actually physically, with your hand, because I'm big on physical action, because I think that locks in what you're doing. You start just below the navel and you zip up the body to the chin with the positive affirmations. You don't unzip. You take your hand around, come back down to the bottom. I am enough. I am at the right time in life, and I'm the perfect size. And then you start again, and you start your day with those. Say them in the mirror. Talk to yourself in the mirror, but believe it, because the whole thing is about not just the words. It's about beginning to feel that they are true, and that's when the change happens.
And actually, looking in the mirror and talking to yourself is quite a difficult thing, especially as a woman. We see each other, see ourselves in the mirror on a day-by-day basis. But actually taking time out to really, really see ourselves and look into our eyes and actually look into ourselves through that tends to be something that most of us don't do.
No. And in fact, it takes looking at the mirror saying, you are beautiful, but then saying, I am beautiful. I mean, and right here at this spot on the chest, which is a power point, because I mean, when you think about it, the apes always pound right there. That's to build up their power to do whatever it is that they're going to do, because they are scary when they do that.
Yeah.
And that's a power point. And sometimes I'll take one of the essential oils called Valor, and I'll use it there too as I do it. So you are powerful. I am powerful. And you say it to yourself while you're at the mirror. Any of those things really, really work. The whole point is recognizing in yourself how special, how unique, how powerful you are in order to accomplish whatever you want to do. And that's what I love doing, is working. I had to do it by myself most of the time. And it was not an easy, it was, more protracted than it had to be because I didn't know. Now, with knowing that you don't have to be alone, that's what my coaching is about. And that's what my readings are about. So today is the last day, but I did have some Black Friday specials that just gave a taste of Take Charge coaching. And one of those did involve 3 coaching sessions. So those end today. And then I have a Cyber Monday special for tomorrow. I've never done that before, but I figured, if all these big companies can do it, why can't I?
It's a real big thing, obviously, in America, this Black Friday, and it's slowly starting to work its way into Europe, definitely in the UK. But as I'm walking to and from dropping the children off at school, I pass Las Ramblas, which is like the main shopping centre for Barcelona, and there's big signs up for Black Friday. And I was
really?
I was following 2 young women on Friday night, and they, talked about Black Friday in English. So they were Spanish, but when they were using the conversation, they used Black Friday rather than, I don't know what the word is for Friday, but, whatever it is in Spanish. My Spanish hasn't quite got there yet. And it just really shocked me that we've become so commercialized in choosing days to spend billions. I'm going off track here now, but billions. I just can't believe how much money people spend on Black Friday.
Yes. And then Cyber Monday is the next thing, because now they're not going to the stores, which most people are shopping online anyway. And many of the brick and mortar stores here in the States are having to close because people are doing that. So they're offering even more fantastic deals if you show up, to get them in person. And then after all of that, because evidently it was one of the biggest shopping Black Fridays in the States. I was home. I was home putting up Christmas decorations in my house. I was not out shopping. But then Cyber Monday is, okay, everybody goes back to work, and now they're going to check online while they are at their computer to see what else they can get. But what I love, what I have offered is something that just will last and be something informational, because the one of my favorite readings, it's a different one than what we did, because we did a comprehensive reading, but it's called Feel the Joy. And I use this special deck that's called Joie de Vivre, and it's all whimsical and really cute things that are in there. And I love it because it's very expressive of what Feel the Joy is. But the Feel the Joy reading is where you find joy the most, where you have to look for it, where you're blocking it, where it comes the easiest, and then also who can be an example for you in terms of living a joyful life. And then there's a message from the universe. But I get the most enjoyment doing this reading with couples, not just people that are committed couples, because, 1 and 1 makes 3. There's 2 people together, but that union, that relationship, that partnership, whether it be business or personal, has its own entity, has its own energy and spirit. And so I love doing that, because it's really, the couples that I've worked with on that have found it so enlightening. And these are committed couples, because I remember I was talking with someone saying that I did that, and I did it with couples. She says, my marriage is just fine. I went, oh, I wasn't saying there was anything wrong with your marriage. All I was saying was, it's amazing that you can pick out parts. I'm talking about committed people in a relationship say, oh, that is right. That is something we together need to work on to make our life better. And they already feel their life is good. But it's just where can we take it to that next level? Where can we take it to that next energy level? Plus, you know, we buy gift cards in the States. I don't know, do you have the gift cards there for different department stores? Or
Yes.
yes. So here's all these gift cards that people are giving for whatever. And so my Cyber Monday special is to offer like a bundle of the Feel the Joy readings that can be done with a gift certificate and give as a gift and at a discount, because I figured, okay, you can give a gift card, but this is something that might be a little more unique and meaningful instead of the regular gift card. So anyway, another one of those messages dropped in that I should be doing. So,
and it's funny, isn't it?
Sharing the joy.
Sharing the joy. It's funny because obviously Christmas isn't that far away, and
right.
It's just trying to work out. Once you get to a certain age, you seem to have absolutely everything, and it's working out what to give and what to ask for. So, you know, this might be an ideal present for somebody.
Well, that was my thought, because, you know, there's only so many sweaters and there's only so many pairs of socks, and you know, how much candy can you eat, you know, and cookies, and it's all good. I'm not diminishing them at all, but sometimes you just want something better and more unique, something that will carry over, because readings don't have to be done in person. They can be recorded, and they can, you know, then I send a companion sheet that allows you to take notes, so there you always have it with you. A lot of the readings that I used to do with someone else, they just did a reading, you know, they just told me. I didn't have anything to look back on later on unless I happened to do it in person and could record it. But, you know, so I'll do the recording. We do the key tarot card or whatever it happens to be, the companion sheet where you can take notes. So it's all, you know, auditory, visual, and tactile.
You're the teacher all the way through.
I can't help it.
No getting away from it. No getting away from it at all.
No, can't change.
How long were you a teacher for?
I actually taught physically in the classroom 25 years, but I was in my I had finished 18 years and went on leave, because at that point my husband and I were two ships passing in the night. And my son was in his last year of college, and so it made sense, okay, go on a 2-year leave, see how it works, because it was difficult. I loved what I did, but it was getting harder to juggle both of those jobs. Well, my 2-year leave turned out to be 16 years of being on leave. And then with the big blow up of everything that happened, because I had maintained my teaching certificate, I didn't let that die. So I still had it when over that 16 years. So when we had to leave Miami and came up here, I went back to teaching. And so I taught another 7 years here. So I taught a total of 25, but I was always involved with teaching in the classroom at some point. My son is still a teacher, and he started doing that. He's in his 30th year this year.
Wow.
He teaches high school. Yeah, teaches high school.
Wow, 30 years as a teacher.
Yeah, yeah, and he coaches 2 sports. So he's, you know, he works with kids, and I'm really proud of him, because I've watched him work with the students, and he's wonderful with them. He really, this is his purpose. It truly is a heart-given purpose for him, because a lot of his young men that he coaches, especially in or the young girls too, because both women and men are in swimming and water polo. It's a single parent at home, and he's kind of like the role model for them, you know, and in fact, I had one of the parents say that to me when I went to one of his meets. She said, "Oh, I'm so thankful for Coach T," they call him, Coach T, because he's been the father figure my son needed. So that made me feel good. It did.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of him.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I think most parents would be incredibly proud to know that they're affecting people's lives day in, day out. And it seems to be a family trait.
Yes, he's good at it. He's, oh, wow, thank you.
Took a little while for that one to click.
Yeah, it did. Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you're both coaches in a variety of different ways, and it sounds to me like he works with people going through a transition, which, let's be honest, going through the teenage transition is probably one of the hardest, and then you work at another
Yes.
transition. So those transitions are hard. They're very hard. They're very hard, and actually
Yes.
having somebody that can, as you say, help you gain clarity and some idea of the steps to take in order to bring about the change that they want to bring about. We all need one.
Yes. Yes, we really do, because life is about change and growth. I mean, that's the one constant that we can be sure of that. But it's who can help us navigate those changes. And so we don't have to be doing it on our own. I mean, we can, but it's difficult. And it's always nice to know there's support there. And in fact, what I call that in my VIP coaching program, where it's a daily contact to create a new way, a new habit, a new behavior. You know, we get stuck in our mold, and then, you know, how do we do that? And, you know, this changed your habit in 21 days is, you know, a bunch of baloney, because it takes longer than that. It really does. So my VIP program of daily contact with staying focused and staying on task, I call that using divine accountability, because a person, you know, finding your purpose, but then maintaining the direction and the focus to achieve that purpose and to stay on purpose can be difficult. And so it's helping someone's use divine accountability to find their own, to guide them. But I'm there helping along the way. It's not to create any dependency, because I'm at this point in my life, I do not want anybody dependent on me. I'm a full-time job to me.
And that's a really difficult thing, is learning that we are the full-time job.
Yeah, exactly. So it's to help people understand that they can do that on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Donna. It's always fantastic when I get the opportunity to spend some time with you. And
Oh, I love it.
And for those that are interested, I'm sure you can pop a link below the video so that they can see how to find out a little bit more about you and some of the programs that you do. But thank you so much for taking the time out. Obviously, I think it's around 3 o'clock with you in Tallahassee, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So you've got the rest of the Sunday afternoon to relax and enjoy. So thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you, Kezia, for this opportunity, and I love you. I am so happy there were no accidents for us to meet this summer.
No, definitely not. Definitely no accidents were involved in San Diego and the people that came together over that week. So it's a real pleasure as always, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.
And I will see you next month.
Yes.
In a couple of weeks, in fact.
Definitely in London, which would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right then, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank